I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Hello, and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I get the honor of introducing you to women that inspire me, women that are change makers, women that have taken control of their lives and said, I'm here to make a difference, and I'm unstoppable. And so what I love about this is that these are way showers. They get to show us, you, potential and possibility of what you can do with your life by just saying yes to your gorgeous, unique, unrepeatable spirit. I do these every week. We're on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Spreaker. We're on YouTube video. And so just subscribe and come back and meet an incredible woman every week. And you can also go to cynthiajames.net. There's all the stuff that I have, gifts and things that you can see what's going on in my world and sign up for my newsletter. So my guest today, her name is Susan Wands. She's a writer. She's a tarot reader. She's a podcaster, and she's an actor. For 30 years, she's worked as an actress on Broadway, in films, regional theater, and off-Broadway troupe Rumble in the Red Room, where she performed her own material. Her adaptation of Pride and Prejudice was performed at the Cornish Institute in Seattle, Washington, and New Works at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, where she was a company member. She has 3 books. Her first book in her series about Pamela Colman Smith, Magician and Fool, book 1 Major Arcana series, published Spark Press in 2023. I love them. Second book, High Priestess and Empress, will be published by Spark Press in 2024. And Emperor and Hierophant, the 3rd book in the series, is in its final edit. Okay, so we know she's a serious writer. I just also want to say that she's co-chair with the New York City Chamber of Historical Novel Society, and she helps produce monthly online book launches and author panels. Susan, welcome. I am so glad you're here.
Oh, Cynthia, it's such an honor for me to be on your program, and kudos for you for knowing how to pronounce Hierophant. Most people don't know how to say that.
So I like to start by asking, how did you grow up? Where did you come from? Women sometimes think that successful people just sort of blow onto the screen and, so where did you come from, and how did your life outpicture?
Well, I'm so thrilled to tell you, Cynthia, that I was born in Denver, Colorado. Where you are. My father was in the Air Force. I have an identical twin sister and 2 other sisters and a brother, and we moved all around. I mean, we were like base brats. Every hole in the wall, we lived in there. Wahoo, Nebraska, Caribou, Maine, Wichita Falls, Texas, the glamorous holes in the wall. And so, but we did get used to moving a lot and having to reinvent ourselves. You show up someplace and you're saying a can of corn, and they're going, who are you? What is wrong with you? And so you learn to reinvent yourself. And as difficult as that nomad life was, in some ways, it really taught me perseverance, that there's never a place in your life where you can't stop and just reinvent your perspective about who you are. So that's basically my upbringing, just a dog's lunch of a little bit here, a little bit there, with that wrapper.
Well, it's really interesting. I love that you're saying that, because I had a similar life, but not from Air Force. We were on welfare, and so we moved a lot at different places and had to learn how to adjust, how to be with different kinds of people, how to navigate different expectations. So I totally get what you're saying. And anybody who's listening, who's had that kind of experience, bravo, because look what you learned. It's an exquisite thing.
Well, and base housing was very strange. At the time that we were living there, because my dad was not an officer, we lived in non-commissioned housing, which was seen as, the bad part. And it was segregated. There was a part where Black families lived on base housing and people who weren't white. And so I grew up in this really weird atmosphere of, even though you're in the military, there's a striation of what society is. It just didn't feel right. So
Right.
that was a very odd way to be part of the military.
Well, you know what? I love that you're saying that too, because people, I think, as generations evolve, they don't remember how things were and how things were evolving and what was the norm at that particular point in time. So, when did you decide to become an actress?
Well, I think because we were moving so much, we would do nutty things like when we would move into a new neighborhood, my sister and I would always put on a circus. She was Troubles the cat, the ringleader, and my brother and I were. So we learned at a young age to play and play with others. And then I went to the University of Washington. I got a degree in women's studies and in theater, started working in Seattle, Washington, got married, went down to the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And that sort of started my nomadic life of moving from job to job, hoping to get the next thing. And in about 1985, I moved to New York City and started over there. No equity card, no agent. I look at it now and go, what was I thinking? But I just sort of showed up going, da 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 da. It'll all work out. I'll find a way. And I'm glad I don't know what I knew then. So it was good.
Yeah, I lived in New York too, and clueless. Completely clueless. So talk to me about why you love acting.
I think I loved it because I got to be my version of the storyteller. Even if I wasn't writing the script, it was so empowering to be able to be an interpreter and to have a moment with people that was truly divine. And it was almost sacred to be entrusted with people's attention and focus to try to share a moment with them. And I got to play some great roles. I played Blanche in Streetcar Named Desire. I played some really great roles in Shakespeare. And then as I got older, the roles weren't quite as fulfilling or thrilling. And frankly, to sit in a trailer or to sit in a dressing room for weeks and months at a time, to not feel like you're filling your life's destiny, I realized that as I got older, it just wasn't doing it for me anymore, even though I loved it as a profession and I'm so grateful for it. But things change.
Well, then what was your next calling?
Well, because I'd always written, I wanted to write screenplays, books, whatever I could, because I was part of this troupe. And every Monday we would write these sketches, and I would write everything from bizarre one-person things where I was dancing with a rubber glove at a ball to being a weird swan lady. And so it was very whimsical and entertaining, but not deeply entrenched in craft. So then as I started to write more, I realized, oh, I need to be schooled. I need a lot more technique here. So I took courses at the New School and did some writing with other people. And then I started my progress to write my book, which took way longer than I thought it would. I thought I'm just going to knock this out because I write and I've adapted plays and I can do this. And it was like, oh no, learning curve is huge. And I really had to start over.
Okay, so tell me the premise, because this is a 3-book series.
It's actually an 11-book series. These are the first 3 books. Because in Tarot, I don't know if you know, in Tarot cards, there's something called the Major Arcana, and Arcana just means mystery. And those are the first 22 cards. I am obsessed with the woman who created these cards. Her name is Pamela Colman Smith, and she came from London. She was born there, but her grandfather was the mayor of Brooklyn. So she had New York City relatives, and she lived in Jamaica for a while and became very infamous because she produced the first Jamaican folk tales called Anansi Tales. So wow. She was an illustrator and a designer and a creator, and at a very young age. But Cynthia, when I first started using her tarot cards, her name was not on the deck. It was the publisher and the man who co-created them with him. Nobody knew who Pamela Colman Smith was. And I was outraged that this was the best-selling deck in the world, 100 million copies in 20 countries, and nobody knew who her name was. So I had several tarot readings and several sort of visions where I went, she is speaking to you to tell her story. So you better get with it. So I've dedicated a lot of decades to learning everything I can about her, contacting her family and trying to understand where she came from, and to write this 11 series book that starts with a pairing of each one of these tarot cards. Pamela didn't have it easy either. She died broke and, in a Popper's Grave in Bude, Cornwall. So she reinvented herself very often, but at that time, she did not have the resources to have any kind of mentorship or help or anything that would help her become more of an artist. So I'm determined, not only in doing this work about Pamela, but that Pamela's name and her other artwork is recognized.
And her tarot cards are available?
Everywhere. If you pick the Smith Waite deck, the Rider-Waite Smith deck, they're basically the cards that you would recognize from every tarot deck. She was co-creator of what we would call the modern deck.
Wow. Well, first of all, bravo for your listening and understanding that this woman's voice needed to be heard even beyond her physical form. And you took the classes and you started writing. But my question is, what were the stumbling blocks, the emotional stumbling blocks as you're in this process?
For me, Cynthia, it always comes down to pride and ego. It's getting feedback, it's getting edits, it's starting over, it's not insisting that I'm right, because writing and acting is a shared collaboration. I mean, you're doing this with each other. And if you can't take the notes, then you will do what I do in a lot of instances. Well, I will make every mistake first, and then I will learn from it, I hope. But yes, when I put out the first version of my book, I had it listed with an English publisher who basically just listed it on a website and called it a day. And I was like, no, we need distribution. I need to get it in bookstores, and what? Too late. And then when I went back to people in the business, they went, yeah, you're done. You can't fix it. And I went, oh, I'm fixing this. I don't care how many times you tell me no, but I am fixing this. I don't know how, but I will fix this. So it turned out I went to Spark Press and I pitched them the second book. And they went, oh, whoa. Let's take a look at the first book. What happened here? And I went, well, and they went, okay, first of all, let's go back and have you rewrite the first book. You wrote it 2015, 2016. The world has changed. So you need a sensitivity reader. We need to plant this as the first book in a series, and you need to rehaul it. And I sort of went, oh, okay, that was not what I was looking for. But if that's the yes I'll go for. So I spent quite a bit of time and money with other developmental editors and sensitivity readers from all sorts of groups to make sure that I was not out of step with the times, and I was, and to make sure that I'm speaking from an authentic place. So rewrote the first book, wrote the second book, the third book's in final edits, and then I'm starting to map out the fourth book.
So one of the things I admire about what you're saying in this moment is, writing is a journey, first of all. And I love Spark Press and She Writes Press because they are organizations of integrity, and they really want to support authors in being the best that they can be. So I love that they said, no, let's go back and start at the beginning and let's bring that forward, and that you listened and hey, your ego does get involved when you're writing or creating, because you want it to be whatever you want it to be, and the universe is like, well, maybe not, maybe you'll go over here. Won't that be lovely? So I want to ask you too, because now, okay, so you've been an actor, or you are an actor, you're a writer, you are also married to an actor. For how many years?
Almost 30 years. It'll be 29 on Easter this year. And we
Wow.
have spent probably a third to the fourth of our married life separated, because he was in a show at the Denver Center, Tantalus, with the Royal Shakespeare Theater, that went back to England for about a year. And I would go to like the Alabama Shakespeare Festival for a 6-month season. So we just had to learn that we had to step up our game in terms of commitment, not only to each other, but to who we wanted to be. Now, we're lucky. We don't have children. We usually have cats. So,
I saw one.
Yeah. But yes, it takes a special skill in learning how to support each other's life without not living your own. I mean, he's like one of the top audiobook recorders. So during shutdown, our bathroom was a recording studio. So I would have to text him saying, you need to tell your engineer you need a break. because your wife needs a break. So we've had some stuff we've had to work out in terms of being partners, but Robert Peckoff, he's the love of my life, and I'm so lucky I found him.
Well, one of the things that's important about what you said is because of the deep desires with you and individually and the collective desire for the marriage, you had to redefine what marriage looks like.
Oh, and it's not easy. It's not easy, especially, you know, Cynthia, opening nights. They're not fun usually for the partner. You've got photographers and producers shoving you aside, trying to get to, the actor, the star. And you just have to check yourself going, this is not my moment. My moment is to be the support team. And then later on, you get the support back. But just like letting bad reviews live in your head and take up that space, you can't let those moments about his moment to shine take up space in your head. That's not what the universe is trying to offer you.
Yeah, well, but it's so interesting because so many people, in my life, clients or whatever, are, talking about they want this perfect relationship. But what you're saying is something, ladies, I hope you're listening, because it's like, who are you first? Who do you want to be? What do you want to bring to the table? Who is that person? What do they want to bring to the table? And then how do you navigate the waters of relationship? Because it's really like the biggest workshop you'll ever be in. How do you do that?
I think you're absolutely right. You have to cast yourself first. You have to put the oxygen mask over yourself to be living a life that's authentic, challenging, and that is transparent. If you can't share what you're going through, in all these creative things, we have ups and downs and setbacks, but if you can't share the journey authentically and feel like you own it with your partner, then you constantly have to say, well, I didn't come up with that, or it's going to be really expensive to do this. I don't think that's our priority. You have to really come at it with your full commitment, saying, here's my spreadsheet, here's my plus and minuses, and there's your plus and minuses. How are we going to merge these?
You are so right. My husband and I actually next Monday was our first date 29 years ago. And but here's the thing, we're both independent, we're both artists, we're both creative. It's like, how do you do that? So I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because the relationships of the 50s and the 60s and no, they don't exist anymore. Not really. Not if you're going to be an independent soul and a creative soul that's going to bring your light to the planet and have a partner that does the same. What do you think is the biggest challenge for women standing in their power?
I think it's because we take on too much. It's in addition to being an artist and a partner and a lover and an explorer, suddenly we're obsessed with how clean everything is, and things have to be on a schedule, and we have to eat a certain way. And there's so much we've added to our to-do list that we have trouble relinquishing the fact that things don't have to run like a well-oiled train all the time. We ascribe all these duties that need to be shared, or maybe they don't need to be done, or maybe they need to be jobbed out. But I think that's one of the hardest things for women right now, is we are trying to be too much and manage too much.
Well, and take care of others before we take care of ourselves. I mean, that's how we were enculturated. So, yeah, and be the ultimate multitasker, which really doesn't work, but
hire out, delegate.
Exactly.
And the whole thing of serving others, I think if you can't serve others with an open heart, you're not serving. And so this whole idea of must do, must provide, putting out the milk and cookies for everything, there's nothing left after a while. So, I talk about this with my girlfriends a lot, about boundaries and limits, because we have them. We just do. We're not limitless fonts of giving. So that's a hard lesson to learn when we get burned out.
Well, yeah, learning how to set boundaries and hold boundaries, especially when other people are telling you if you do that, you're selfish or you're not, being loving, but I tell people, we teach people how to treat us. And if if we do everything for them, what we're telling them is that they're incapable of being their most powerful self. So
Yes. I mean, believe me, our first year of marriage, suddenly Robert realized I was asking him to do housework. And he was like, what? This wasn't on the what happened here? So I was like, okay, maybe it was switch and bait a little bit. I will.
well, all of us, I'm a baby boomer, and and it's like, this is what it's supposed to look like growing up. And it was like, and I was like, no, let's go. All right. So I want to know, how do people find you and your work?
Well, thank you so much for asking, Cynthia. First of all, here's my book, Magician and Fool. You can just Google SusanWands.com, and there's all sorts of links. I encourage people to go to bookshop.org. You can get it on Amazon, but the reason I like bookshop.org is because it supports small bookstore businesses. Amazon is Amazon, it will always live on, but my website has a couple of different ways. You can also see all the different courses that I'm teaching about tarot. On May 27th, I'm having a 2-hour slideshow of all of Pamela's work for Morbid Anatomy, and you can find it on my website too. But I'm constantly yapping about her and tarot cards and how to learn to read them and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, and I got to tell you, for ladies who aren't knowledgeable about the tarot, there's something really powerful about the using of these decks as you are moving through life.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well, Jung loved these cards for introspection because they're archetypes that really resonate with you. And I don't see them as fortune telling cards. I see them as intuitive guidance. You know inside yourself where you're at. You can't predict your future until you know what your present is. And that's the brilliance of tarot cards. They let you know right now, how are you reacting to the death card? How are you reacting to the devil card? Because there's stuff going on. So that's why I really encourage people just to try it, see if it works.
I love that. So I ask the same last question of every guest. The show is called Woman Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing that women need to know about the importance of their awakening?
Gratitude. Gratitude for themselves. I think we're taught to look outwards and look at the world like, oh, the world gives you all these gifts. But gratitude to look at whatever stage of your life that you're at and say, I overcame this. I changed my mind about that. I did this. Okay, maybe they're not huge things in your mind, but you were able to change and evolve. And that is amazing. That's nature. That's everyday miracles that we can be grateful for the fact that as women, we are works in progress, which is amazing.
Well, you're amazing. And
you are too, Cynthia. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I just love it.
Well, I'm so grateful that you're here, and you are definitely a Renaissance woman and a way shower. And ladies, I hope that you will go to her site and see what she's offering and check out what she does with the tarot. So, ladies, I'm going to say the same thing to you I say every week in a different form. This is your moment to say yes to you, to your life, to your brilliance, to your creativity, to your power. This is the moment to step into your field and allow the universe to lift you up and nurture you and support you, because you're here for a reason. You matter, and the world is waiting for you. I'm very grateful to walk this path with you, and I love hearing the stories of how you're healing and transforming. Know that Women Awakening is what the planet needs right now. I love you, and I will see you next week.